Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Woodmere State Revival. We are outside again today working on the pool house, and man, it is a beautiful day. We got spring dreams in our mind. I think spring's actually coming up pretty soon. Is it next weekend, honey?
Actually, I think it's today.
Oh, could actually be today. I mean, it feels like the first day of spring, doesn't it?
It is.
I knew it was coming up soon, but yeah, Amber's dreaming about being by the pool, laying out, sipping on a soft or a fizzy drink.
It's really unsweet tea, but yeah, I can pretend.
Yeah, she's dreaming. Anyway, so we're working on the pool house. As I showed you guys the other day, we're starting demolition on the roof of the pool house so we can begin to expand the pool house. It's actually like a pool cave. You got to kind of hunker over, pretend like you're Quasimodo, and work on the pool equipment. Can't tell you how many times I hit my head on the roof of the pool house, and it was not comfortable. That thing is hard. My head and the roof of the pool house. But anyways, that's something in the past. We are taking the roof off and we're going to add an addition on. So we're going to use cinder block and block up a full story, and we're putting a piece on next to it that's actually going to have a half bath. How cool is that, babe?
It's awesome.
Yeah, very awesome. So as you saw last time, we had built a structure to kind of catch the pieces of concrete as we demolished it. And that actually worked out really well. We did some demo, and then we had a crew in this week, a couple of laborers from our contractor who's going to be doing some construction around here for us. And they got some more of it removed for us, which was much to my delight, because it's kind of a miserable process just chipping away with the roto hammer. But they got some more of that knocked out. I'll show you just how far they got here in just a second. So I'm going to move the shelter back, actually to the back half of the building. And that way we can go ahead and start removing the rear of the roof. It's actually thinner in the back. So thankfully the guys this week removed the thickest part of it. Thank you. And make my life a little bit easier. It's still not going to be easy, but it's going to be a little easier. So I'll give you guys a quick tour of the work site here, and then we're going to get started. All right, so here's the pool cave. As you can see, it's just a shell of its former self. The equipment, we removed most of that last time, including the electric panel, control panel, a couple of pumps, a lot of the pipe work, a lot of the valves. Pulled all that stuff out last time because we wanted to protect it, and it was just going to be in the way when we're in there working. We still have the two biggest, heaviest, most expensive things in there. That's the heater and the filter vessel, and remains to be seen what we do with those. We may actually be able to put them on a dolly and kind of get them out of there once we get the roof off. So we may give that a shot. I take some careful measurements before we move them, so we know exactly where to put them back when they go back in there, because all of our pipe obviously is rigid, and if we're even off just a half an inch, it's really going to screw some things up when we try to go put it back together. It could be a nightmare. So as you can see, the shelter did a nice job protecting everything. Nothing got beat up or busted inside the pump house. But I do need to go ahead and move that back, and as you can see, it is getting a little thinner toward the back here, which is super exciting. These front parts, I mean, they were probably 6 to 8 inches thick. The back is, more like 4 inches or so. There is rebar crisscrossing through there, and so we do have to kind of cut that off as we go to get that out of the way. Nothing a big 7-inch grinder can't handle. But I'm gonna go ahead and move the shelter back, and then we'll break out the heavy equipment and start chipping away at some of this concrete and see how much we can get knocked out.
Got it started. Wish us luck. Bit by bit.
It's simply easier standing and going in
than standing
like this for an hour.
Yeah, that was awful last weekend. Yeah.
The rebar actually helps to pop it out.
That's good.
You can tell it's rusty, so water's gotten in around
Right.
it. If I kind of follow that line, that should help to.
And we were afraid to use a bigger jackhammer because we thought we could do damage to the structure, right? The walls.
Yeah, a big jackhammer, electric jackhammer, I mean, would easily power through this stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't want to mess up our cinder blocks and have to redo a bunch of that.
Right.
So we're making some good progress so far. It's actually a whole lot better to stand on the ground and kind of work into it from the side than it was to stand up on top of it and work down. You would think that the advantage of gravity kind of holding the drill down for you, as it were, would be easier, but ultimately you had to hunch over so far. It just killed my lower back. Standing like that for an hour or 2 hours just eventually just wore me out. And so I knew I couldn't do that today. That wasn't going to be effective or helpful in the long run. So today, working at it from the side seems to be much better because I can kind of put the bit on the rebar, use that as a rest, and then work into the concrete kind of in the middle and chip off the bottom, and then lift the impact or the hammer drill up on top and then kind of chisel down and break off some big pieces a little bit at a time. So it's actually working out pretty good. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So I haven't been at it very long, but you can see I got a pretty good pile already started here. So what I'm doing is I'm using the rebar and I'm resting the bit on it and then going in kind of in the middle of the concrete and chipping down, kind of undercutting it, as you can see over here where I've undercut it. And then once I undercut it, then I can take the hammer drill and come up on top and come down straight vertical, and then just kind of cut a line across it, if you will, with the bit, and eventually break off a big chunk kind of like this. So it really makes for a good end result. And when the big chunks start to drop down, I can kind of just hold the drill with one hand and then catch the piece with the other hand. So I'm going to pull the wheelbarrow over here, kind of clean off my workspace, and then continue working back into the corner there, get this thing all cleared off. But real happy with the progress so far. And this system seems to be working much better than standing up on top and chipping downward. Well, as you can see, we're making excellent progress. Got rid of about a foot, maybe in about an hour, something like that. It's actually coming off in big chunks around the rebar because water has permeated the concrete over the years, started to rust the rebar, which has expanded it and has kind of pressed against the concrete, kind of splitting things. So if I can kind of go along that seam, I'm getting big chunks to pop off the bottom. Then it'll leave me with maybe 3 inches to chisel down through from the top. So we got our first wheelbarrow full of concrete ready to go. I'm going to take that down to the other end of the property there and dump it in the dumpster. I've got the tractor sitting there. So I'll take the wheelbarrow over there, dump it into the bucket, tram the tractor down to the other end of the road, and dump it into the dumpster, which will head off to the landfill with the rest of the parking pad and the slab from the guest house. So I'm going to take a quick break to grab some lunch, and then I'll come back out here and start chipping away on the rest of this, hoping to knock out most of the roof today. We'll see how the rest of this goes, but so far, making good progress. So I'm actually standing up on top of the pump house now. And reason being is I wanted to take my 7-inch grinder with this diamond blade and score the concrete. Just trying this out. Don't know if it's going to help, get bigger pieces off or anything else. I scored the middle one here and then whacked it with the sledgehammer a few times. And some pretty big chunks broke off. So it may actually work pretty well. It's not deep enough that it cuts it all the way through, which is good because it would get into the rebar and then trash it. So I'm just cutting through about 2 inches of the concrete, and the rebar is deeper than that. And I was trying to score in line with the rebar because that's where it seems to get kind of bound up, around the rebar and around the joints in the rebar. So hoping that'll make it pop loose a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a few whacks with the sledgehammer. I'm also going to cut back the rebar a little bit because that stuff's sticking out quite a bit and catching on my shirt and poking me as I'm leaning in a little bit to cut some more of this out. So I'm going to go ahead and switch blades, take the diamond blade off of the 7-inch grinder, and then put a metal grinding blade on there. I don't have a cutting wheel. I'll go ahead and put the grinding wheel on there, and that'll cut through this stuff okay. We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll beat on it a little more, chip a little more, see if I can get this side finished. So I got another big wheelbarrow full of concrete chunks, and this method is actually working very well. So scoring the concrete and then hitting it with the big sledge till it starts to crack, and then the mini sledge once it gets ready to fall. That way I can keep one hand under it and beat it with the other. That's working actually very well. So I think what I'll do is go ahead and take this wheelbarrow down to the tractor and throw that in there, and go ahead and score the rest of this side, and then probably have to get up on top to hit that in the back. If not, maybe I can cut these rebar pieces back and then be able to hit it from the front without getting stabbed by one of these. That's actually working really, really well. I mean, I had chunks falling out of there much faster than with the rotohammer. So that's just the way it is. I mean, you learn as you go on these projects. Sometimes you think you've got the best way figured out, and then in the middle of it, you're like, wonder if this would work. And I was going inside to get my grinder to cut the rebar off, and I saw that concrete blade on there. I was like, you know what? I should try just cutting, scoring the concrete and then whacking it and see if it'll fall off in bigger chunks. And sure enough, it's working great. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this wheelbarrow load dumped, and then we'll go ahead and finish up the right side, move our board to the other side, and then keep on trucking. Hopefully get this thing knocked out in the next couple of hours. I'm gonna go ahead and take this load of concrete down to the other end of the Massey. The bucket's not full, but the more stuff you get in there, the harder it is to get the wheelbarrow right up in there and dump everything in. Plus, we're gonna take it easy on the hydraulics. Diesel's cheap. So we'll go ahead and take this load down there, dump it in the dumpster, and then head back here and chip out some more of this junk. Can I just tell you how much I enjoy running a tractor? I don't know, there's something about it. I mean, it's very, relaxing. It's work, but it's fun. Cheers. Anybody that spends any time on a tractor knows what I'm talking about. And really, the older the better. They're just simple, easy to work on, easy to take care of. No electronics or gizmos to break down. Just good old tractors. Satisfying. You can tell we're getting ready to pour some footers. Rebar on the ground. Take a quick look. So the guys have been working hard over here, getting all this cleaned up. Got all kinds of rain the other night. Made a real mess out of it. But as you can see, the slab is gone. The parking pad is gone. So we're pretty much ready for digging footers. I think the guys will be here on Monday. Got a little bit more cleanup to do over here. Still got a few block in the ground. Still a few block around the perimeter. Some old piping and stuff. This we don't want to remove. That's the water line. So we don't want to rip that out. It is still active. But yeah, a few blocks here and there, we got to dig those out. Get the last of this debris cleaned up. It's really looking good. So the carriage house, 3-car garage, as Amber calls it. I like to call it carriage house because it sounds fancy. But the carriage house, as you can see, it will, this is one corner here. And it's going to go over there to the other corner. I believe that is 41 feet end to end. That's what our final measurement was. Over to this corner. And then we're coming back this way toward the creek, 30 feet. So 41 by 30, a little over 1,200 square feet. Good size 3-car garage. And then upstairs, about 2/3 of that will be for living space. Above one bay, we're going to have open, a clear space, and that's where the lift is going to go. I'm going to have a 2-post, 10,000-pound truck lift, so that's going to go there. But everything else is going to be living space. So we're super excited to have an additional 1-bedroom, full bath space down here where people can stay when they're visiting, or who knows, we may end up having a parent live with us, or friend, or who's down on their luck, or who knows. But it's going to be nice to have the extra space, and it'll be private down here. They won't feel like they're right on top of the family and being a bother when they can have their own little area down here. If we need to at some point, we can put a kitchenette in, that sort of thing, to make it more of a full-time living space. But beautiful down here. Our neighbors have their pasture mowed. They're keeping that up. It was really overgrown when we first moved here, and then the family sold to one of the grandkids, and they've done a fantastic job cleaning that property up. It's really looking good. And the lady of the house is raising bees, so that's what that little fenced-in enclosure is over there. The bear kept getting into their bees, so they had to put up some electric. But it's just beautiful down here. It's quiet, private. So it's gonna be a great spot for me to have my garage. I can get down here, beat and bang, and work on stuff without bothering anybody. And park the tractor and all the other equipment, toys, whatever. And then if we need to, we'll have the living space. I think we're gonna use it as, at least part of it, as a home gym as well. That way we can come down here and work out. Don't have to have that stuff jumping up the bonus room. Upstairs to the other house. All right, I'm gonna get back on the tractor and head back to the other end of the road. Try to bust out some more of that concrete roof. So I just finished using the 7-inch grinder with the grinding disc on it and cut off the pieces of rebar. That way I can get in here and just really beat the snot out of this stuff without worrying about getting stabbed with a sharp piece of rebar. So we got that off. And as you can see, I've already got all this scored. So now we're ready to go ahead and start beating on it with the sledgehammer. Get all the stuff loosened up and hauled out of here. After I get this section, I'm going to go ahead and move our shelter over and get it in position over top of the filter vessel. And I'll start cutting this up into pieces and knocking it out the same way. It's going so much faster. Good old-fashioned sledgehammer and scoring it with the concrete blade on the 7-inch grinder. Loving it. So I got the mess cleaned up. Now I'm getting ready to go ahead and bust up the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and switch from the grinding wheel to the cutting wheel on my 7-inch grinder and get up here and score this section just like I did the other. I mean, it's just working great. It's just busting off right at the edge here. Now this is going to be a little tricky, this stuff that's stuck to the block, because when they poured it, of course, it went down in the block. So that's going to be a little bit more tedious, but I'll be able to get that once I get all this big stuff off of there. I'll go ahead and get the chipping hammer, the roto hammer, out again and go ahead and bust all that stuff up. Just chip it off the top. So, looking forward to getting the last of this out of here. It's going to be awesome working on this thing when it's a full story versus having to hunch over. I'm not going to hit my head anymore. I'm so excited. I'm going to have lots of light. I'm going to have a little heater in there, maybe probably some baseboard heat, so I don't have to worry about stuff freezing up in the wintertime. Maybe a dehumidifier, so it's not so swampy in there. It's going to be nice. Nicest pool house I've ever seen. All right, so let me go ahead and switch my blades around here, and then we'll go ahead and get up there and make some dust. All right, so I got the last of the top scored. So now we're ready to go ahead and start busting it up with the sledgehammer. Take a look at that dust mask. It's unreal how much dust those concrete cutting blades will throw, and always a good idea to put on a dust mask. This is a N95 with an exhale valve, which is nice. Keeps it from fogging up your glasses and your shield and that sort of thing, because you exhale from the valve instead of blowing it out around the mask once it starts to get a little plugged up. So I like these for home improvement stuff. So at any rate, we're ready to go ahead and take the sledgehammer to the top and try to knock out as much of that stuff as we can. Once we get the big chunks out, then we'll go ahead and switch over to the rotohammer again and chip out the last of the stuff around the top. Unreal. That's what I'm talking about. This would have taken 20 minutes probably with the rotohammer, just chipping away at it. Unreal. Nice work, sledgehammer. Oh, solid one. Oh, yes, sir. Dang. Let's crack them. Clear over here. Get some of this weight over here. It's pretty sturdy, but I don't want to test it too much. solid like that, feel it. Every joint just jars you. Yeah, that's a good one. The rebar and everything. That rebar had previously been cut for our access for our sand filter. There you go. You can feel the change when it's getting ready to break. I said a minute ago, it's softening up. I mean, when you hit it, it's just harder than heck. You know, it just sends that vibration all the way up through the handle. You know, you got a little work to do. But then once it starts softening up a little bit, you feel it. The hammer head is kind of sinking into it every time you hit it. And you can pretty much guess when it's going to bust. It changes the way it feels when you hit it. That was coming looking for me. Sir. Oh, that was hard. All right, here we go. Yeah, that works. That works. Probably a bad idea. Oh, that's a good one. That was a good one. All right, so there we go. I'm out of breath. That's swinging that sledge around and busting up that concrete. Good workout. Thankfully, the plywood held. Didn't collapse on our filter there. I'm gonna go ahead and get one load taken to the dumpster. You can see our wheelbarrow is really full. Then I'll come back, load up the rest of this. Then I can move the plywood out of the way and then use our rotor hammer to go ahead and start separating it from the top course of block, get the last of that stuff chipped off. Whew. Man, that was so much faster though than chipping away at it one piece at a time with the rotor hammer. It was awesome. All right, well, I worked on chipping away on the wall a little bit there, and it's coming away, but it is tedious. Nowhere near as fun as saw cutting and then slamming it with a hammer. That stuff was just popping off, but this is really tedious. Just chipping off little bits at a time, trying not to damage the center block. So that's gonna take a while. We're getting ready to wrap up for the evening, gonna grab some dinner and relax a little bit this evening, and we'll hit it again tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscription button so you don't miss a single episode. Give us a like if you would, please. Got any comments or questions, as always, leave those down below. We love to hear from y'all. And please be sure to keep spreading the word about our channel. We keep picking up new subscribers all the time. We'd love to have you guys. And there's a ton of stuff that's coming up inside the house and outside over the next 6-12 months. We're going to keep popping these episodes out. So you guys keep tuning in. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.